Matt, welcome to the government team. It's a great honor to be on the same team as you.
Quite honestly, it was the speech in Davos where you took everything head on, and I think for me that's where a lot of the world changed. I think it opened a lot of eyes for Canadians, Albertans, Edmontonians, just how serious this national media crisis truly is. And it's for me, it felt disingenuous and quite simply wrong to be sitting on the sidelines anymore. So I reached out to the Prime Minister's office, and will be joining his caucus.
And then there were three. Prime Minister Mark Carney was unsurprisingly all smiles today as he introduced a new member of his Liberal caucus. Alberta MP Matt Jeneroux is now the third Conservative to cross the floor in as many months, joining Chris D'Entremont in November and Michael Maw in December. Back in November, there was a ton of speculation about Jeneroux potentially crossing the floor, but he ruled it out, saying he would quit politics altogether. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre at the time thanked Jeneroux for his service and said he would stay on as an MP until the spring. And Jeneroux at the time said the decision reflected his desire to spend more time with his family. That was then. This is now. We requested an interview with both Mr. Jeneroux and the Conservatives. Both, however, were declined. Instead, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre's office directed us to a post he made on social media where he accused Jeneroux of betraying his constituents. He wrote, "Mark Carney is trying to seize a costly Liberal majority government that Canadians voted against in the last election through dirty backroom deals. Matt Jeneroux has betrayed the people of Edmonton Riverbend," Poilievre wrote, "who voted for affordable food and homes, safe streets, and a strong resource sector. Conservatives will continue our fight for a Canada that's affordable, safe, and self-reliant." So what does all of this mean for both the Liberals and the Conservatives? Let's bring in a special edition of our strategy session. CTV political analyst Scott Reid is here. He's a former communications director to Prime Minister Paul Martin. CTV political analyst and former Conservative industry minister James Moore is with us. He's now a policy advisor at Edelman. And Kathleen Monk is a former director of communications to the late Jack Layton. She's now the principal owner of Monk & Associates. Hi, everybody.
Hey there.
Good to see you.
Hey.
Scott, besides this revealing that nobody who's been married a long time actually wants to spend more time with their family, what does this tell you about, what does this tell you right now about the government and the strategy the Liberals are employing?
I think you're onto something. We should dwell on this marriage issue. But I mean, what this tells you is that Pierre Poilievre faces steep challenges still. And, you know, he went through the leadership review. We got a smashing endorsement. But it's been 3 months. 3 MPs across the floor. And yes, he's going to say these are dirty backroom deals and it's a betrayal of constituents and all that sort of stuff. And I guess maybe that's to be expected, but none of it fixes his wagon. This is a punch to the gut for Pierre Poilievre. He has got to figure out how does he correct this ship. And at a point where his own MPs keep declaring non-confidence in his leadership, man, Canadians are left to wonder, why should we endorse it with our votes? And of course, they may not get that chance now because the pure math of this takes us to the possibility that if the Liberals win by-elections in Liberals they hold, they will have, by the thinnest, razor thinnest of margins, the majority that they hope for.
What do you think this means for Mr. Poilievre's leadership, James? And how do you expect or hope, I guess I would say, he addresses it?
Well, there's a truism in life, right, that no matter how bad things seem, it's always possible for things to get worse. It is actually possible for things to get worse. Scott talked about a majority. There's also the possibility that others may decide to go against the mandate that they got from their constituents and cross the floor. These things happen. I think it would be a mistake for the Conservative Party to do at least what it seems like they're doing on social media, which is going all in and attacking Matt Jeneroux personally. They praised Matt Jeneroux just a couple months ago when he decided not to cross the floor, and they said he was a good guy and honorable guy, a thoughtful guy, and now they're doing a 180. Look, Matt Jeneroux is 1/343rd of the House of Commons. He's one person. Yes, every seat has a consequence in a minority parliament, but your obligation as the alternative governing party in this country is to focus on the public's interest. And I would be very dispassionate about this if I were them strategically, and just say, you know, Matt Jeneroux can be worried about his job. We're worried about the jobs of everyday Canadians who are worried about this economy that's not going in the right direction. I think if you overreact to this, I think you make a big mistake. By attacking and demonizing Chris d'Entremont, it didn't stop Mr. Ma from crossing the floor. By attacking Mr. Ma, it didn't stop Matt Jeneroux from crossing the floor. By attacking Matt Jeneroux, I mean, learn from the past. And I think overreacting and looking panicky about one member of parliament who obviously lost confidence in Pierre quite some time ago would be a strategic mistake. Focus on the country, focus on yourselves, and move forward, lest you bait others to want to cross the floor as well. Don't react the wrong way.
It is interesting that a few months ago, Matt Jeneroux was saying, Kathleen, that he was going to leave politics altogether. Therein lied an opening, I suppose, right, for either the Conservatives or the Liberals to secure the opposite, secure sort of a different outcome. The Liberals were able to do that, while the Conservatives were not.
Yeah, and what's interesting about Mr. Jeneroux's comments today is that he said he reached out to the Prime Minister post the, maybe post the Davos speech or whatever. But actually, you could look at this, if you want to be contrarian, you could almost try to look at this optimistically for Mr. Poilievre. I know people are going to believe Kathleen's going to say something nice about Mr. Poilievre, but listen, he wants to avoid an election. Right? We know that. So a majority, or getting closer to that majority for the Liberal government, would help him to have that time. The problem is he also at the same time has to fend off this narrative that is crystallizing around the opposition leader, Pierre Poilievre, that he is weak, that he is wounded, that he cannot get up off the mat. And the concern is now, with the rumors that are swirling, there are stories posted today about past Conservative MPs calling him the Justin Trudeau of the Conservative Party, that he's basically dead man walking. And if that continues to crystallize, it's going to be his caucus that actually will off their own leader, which they're able to do in the Conservative caucus. And that's the thing that he has to fight against. But if you want, again, to look at it optimistically, so what? Carney can, gets this majority by stealth, by wins the 3 next by-elections or maybe more that come his way. And that, the Conservatives can continue to bide their time and wait for, some of the shine to come off the Liberals as the years click on and Carney continues to govern. And frankly, the economic situation, which is likely to get worse for Canadians.
Yeah, I do understand the argument, Scott, that, time could ultimately be on their side, particularly if things get less shiny. And it's not a guarantee, I should say, also, that the Liberals are going to sweep those by-elections, particularly in Quebec. That seems pretty competitive. Others are more obvious, for sure. But I think the second part of what Kathleen said is also very true, which is, even during that time, we can't assume that just because the shine wears off of the Carney government, that will be to the benefit of Pierre Poilievre. This narrative now, these questions about his leadership, didn't even just start coming today. It was yesterday when it was about Jamil Jivani, where he had to say, I speak for the party, Jamil Jivani does not. And today it's about, should you remain as leader? Tomorrow it's going to be the same thing. If there are more floor crossers, that does become a narrative that crystallizes.
Yeah, listen, I hear what Kathleen's saying, and I admire the variety she tosses into the panel by suggesting there's a contrarian piece of good news here for Mr. Poilievre. But I don't think he can use much more of this kind of good news. What, is a piano going to land on?
Yeah.
It turns out we all love music. Great for him. Look, for 12 months, people have said time is going to be his friend. It hasn't been so far. So he must seize his own destiny. Here's the brutal reality of it. I'll just say it as plain as possible. Right now, he looks like a loser. And if he doesn't start to look like a winner, he's never going to be a winner. And so he can have 2 months, he can have 20 months, he can have 200 months. He's got to get on a winning wicket fast. And right now, he's not. And I just think, they need a strategy. He has not figured out how to talk about Donald Trump and the threats to Canadian sovereignty and Canadians' economic self-interest. He has not been able to bridge the gaps that exist within his own caucus and within his own party on those questions. People who like Trump and people who, with the majority of Canadians, say, I got no truck or trade with that guy. And now he's not only lost the election that he was supposed to win, lost the riding that was supposed to be a lock for him, lost now, potentially, the majority in the House of Commons. He's got to get to winning. Otherwise, he's done.
When Stephen Harper lost...
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, I was going to say, when Stephen Harper was unsuccessful in 2004, he faced a leadership review in the party. He got 84% of the vote. Pierre Poilievre lost the campaign last year, and he got 87% of the vote in the leadership review. What Stephen Harper did after he won his leadership review within the party is, frankly, he threw his weight around a little bit. He demanded some caucus discipline. He used that mandate that he got from the party members, and he called some people out, and he forced caucus discipline. He gave people caucus roles, and he said, if you're the agriculture critic, you're talking about agriculture issues. You don't go to the White House and talk about foreign policy and trade issues with the Vice President of the United States or the Secretary of State and wander around there and get out of your lane. No, he forced discipline, and he told members of our caucus and our shadow cabinet, if you want to be the cabinet, look like a cabinet when you're the shadow cabinet. Audition properly for the role by being proper executives in opposition, such that Canadians can see you in that role one day, perhaps in government. Pierre Poilievre has a stronger mandate to lead this party than Harper did after his leadership review after the 04 loss. Right now, 87%. What's the point in having an 87% mandate if you don't throw your weight around a bit? I think it's time for Pierre to throw his weight around a little bit. Confront Jamil Jivani as he did yesterday, maybe a little more forcefully if he gets out of line again, and say to the members of the caucus who are still there, you're with me and you're with the party and we're moving forward, and show clarity and purpose and leadership and structure and discipline such that Canadians can say, this is a guy who actually wants to be prime minister. There's no point in having an 87% vote of confidence in a mandate if you don't use it. Why did you work so hard to get it if you don't use it? Maybe let's use it and move forward.
It does feel like a major point of inflection for Pierre Poilievre, right? He does have this mandate from his party. That was secured, but all this other stuff is going on, and it feels like there are a couple of different paths to go on, and ultimately whichever he chooses could seal his fate.
Yeah, but James is right. He does need to wield his power, and he can do so in some concrete ways, right? He could nominate some really star candidates, right? He could actually say there was a new policy that's just passed the convention where he's allowed to nominate, I think it's up to 8 candidates. So drop them in, get some stars, show some star power and some bench strength outside of the current Conservative caucus. Get that discipline. Start getting out of the House of Commons. We don't need to hear the quips in QP anymore. Get into those communities, roll out some important speeches, put out some strong policy papers. He needs to, frankly, use his power and marshal the enormous amount of fundraising dollars that he has and put those dollars to work. We're outside of an election period right now. They can do that. They've done that before. They did that in 2023 when they rolled out a major ad campaign in the summer of 2023, which resulted in a major surge for Pierre Poilievre. They could do things like that again, but it does seem that he's almost stunned and not moving. He's got a new campaign manager, very qualified, Steve Outhouse, but they need to get to work.
Okay, I'm going to leave it on that note. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate the analysis tonight. Scott Reed, James Moore, and Kathleen Monk, a special edition of our strategy sessions.